so moving on to video number 2 of reviewing girls and autism, educational, family and personal perspectives. So the next chapter, chapter 10, is entitled Invisible Girls, and it's all about the school experience. And on page, and this is by, the chapter is written, I think Jane Friswell, if I've got that correct, who's a special needs advisor. So she says that on page 82 that the needs of girls generally in education are overlooked because they're often stereotyped as being high achievers. Girls in education are often labelled as being high achievers in comparison to boys, and because of that, educators historically, and still this is still the case today, but maybe hopefully not as much a case, but historically, educators have focused their effort primarily on the needs of boys in relation to underachievement and special educational needs. So girls have often just been ignored because all girls are overachievers, we don't need to worry about them. So again, this is a result, she says, of a naughty boy in inverted commas mindset of the 1970s and 80s, and probably explains also why far more boys get diagnoses of autism and other neurodevelopmental conditions, because teachers are more expecting to see them in boys because of a stereotype. Obviously they're not naughty if they've got these conditions, that's why I put it in inverted commas, but that's part of the stereotype anyway. On page 86, she quotes research from Honeyborn's research, Girls with Autism in Classroom, from 2015, and this report found some key issues that affect girls at school, and these key issues are friendships, learning, needing time alone but not having the opportunity, struggling to meet like-minded people and being isolated at break, and also difficulties with group work that lead girls to seclude themselves out of the need for alone time. So all of those I can relate to. I can relate to that. All of those were areas of concern for me at school. And then she also says on page 90 something I think that's really important, because I completely agree, that schools that are driven by results automatically operate exclusively. Yes, both schools I went to were driven by results. They were both good schools in terms of, league tables and results and exams and pupils being high achievers, but because they were results driven, they just didn't really, they seemed to put special educational needs on a very low footing. It's like they just didn't really care. Or they did, obviously they would say they did care, but, lived experience tells otherwise. My own experience of the fact that I knew I had issues and that I was assessed at age 9 by an educational psychologist. I was flagged up as needing a lot of support, and I only got the bare minimum of that support at secondary school and at primary school. It just was not good enough. So that just shows, and I've heard from other people who went to the secondary school I went to, that it was not at all good on special education needs support. So other people have been let down as well because it did focus heavily on its high achievers. So yes, that's definitely correct. On page 90. And then where was I? Yeah, the next chapter friendships on the autism spectrum, page 126, 127. That chapter is written by Felicity Sedgwick, and in this chapter, Felicity Sedgwick, who's an autism sort of academic expert, discusses autistic girls' experiences with making friends. On page 127, she cites research by Head A.L. from 2014. Head A.L.'s research from 2014 that found that autistic girls aged 10 to 16 had friendships they rated as being of higher quality than autistic boys. Now, I found that research quite interesting because that is not my experience. I don't know how representative this study was, and I do have my suspicions that this cannot just be, I don't know, I personally, as a female, do not fit in to that statement. I don't relate to it. because as a teenager, I did not have high quality friendships. In actual fact, I've never had high quality friendships. The closest I came to having a high quality friendship was towards the end of my primary school years when I finally made a friend with a girl in my class. That was the closest I could come to saying sort of like the closest I've ever came to actually having a proper friend. It was very up and down. More often than not, we weren't friends, but that was as close as I could come to saying of having an actual friend. And when I was at secondary school, and most of my life experience has been that of being a loner and not having high quality friendships, I can't really relate to that statement. And I don't know how representative it is of females or girls. She also says that autistic girls generally have better social skills and higher social motivation than autistic boys, and that boys are more likely to be actively rejected by their peers. Again, I'm not sure about that. I just don't know. I think I'm sceptical of this research. I'm also sceptical that autistic girls really do have better social skills than autistic boys. Or is this just appearance? Or is it just what people expect? Is this confirmation bias or something like that? As I say, my social skills have never been great. I can mask. I've learned how to do that, but I've got no idea. I have really got very pretty limited social understanding, as reflected in the fact that I've never really had proper relationships, and I don't really understand how to make proper relationships work. So I can't really relate to that either. Certainly as a kid, I did have quite good social motivation. I was motivated socially, actually probably more motivated socially when I was a kid than I actually am now. My social motivation seems to have deteriorated with age. So I had the social motivation as a kid, that's true, but I didn't understand how to relate, so I didn't really have good social skills at all. And she also says how autistic girls' friendships tend to be closer than autistic boys. Again, I don't know, I think that's maybe a bit of a generalisation. She says that autistic girls tended to have one or two intense best friendships. Yeah, I can relate to that, because when I did finally make that friend at the final year of primary school, it was a very intense relationship, and consequently I couldn't deal with it whenever she tried to make friends with other girls. I got incredibly possessive. Whenever she played with someone else, that was it, we broke up. And that was part of the reason why I couldn't really maintain friendships at secondary school, was because I was described as being too clingy and I couldn't deal with groups. And whenever I did make a friend or wanted to make a friend, it had to be on my terms, and I was very exclusive. It had to be my friend, no one else's. And I still have this within me, and I think it's also part of the reason why, even as an adult, I struggle to make friends, because I can't deal with groups. I can't share people. And often people want to be with other people, and I can't deal with that. So I can certainly relate to that. I just don't know how exclusive this is to autistic females. If any males are watching this, do let me know whether or not you can relate to any of this, or if you think, is it too binary, is it too narrow, just to say this is a female issue? I don't know. But that's what the research shows anyway. I'm just not sure how representative that research is. She says that overall the research showed that girls had friendships they were happy with, and this helped them to navigate high school. As I say, I can't relate to that. I didn't have any real friends at all at high school. The few friends I did make, I fell out with, or they fell out with me. So it wasn't a good experience at all, friendship-wise. She makes a point that neurotypical girls, neurotypical in inverted commas, also tend to be more exclusive in friendships and have a smaller group of close friends all in all than neurotypical boys. As a gross generalisation, I think that probably is generally speaking correct, just as a gross generalisation, just because the way girls and boys are socialised, their friendship groups do tend to be slightly different. So maybe there is something to be said for it, that autistic girls do tend to have more intense relationships than autistic boys. I don't know. But I'm just a little bit sceptical about that, particularly as autistics in general often don't tend to conform to gender stereotypes anyway as much. We tend to more do our own thing, so I'm not sure how far we're as conditioned as, I certainly don't feel I'm particularly conditioned by gender. It's not something I really think about, But so I'm not sure if you can really extrapolate, is that the right word? Extrapolate? That's what it is, isn't it? Extrapolate what non-autistic friendships are like to autistic people. I'm not sure if you can do that or not. On page 132, it's mentioned that autistic girls tend to have friendships that are different to those of autistic boys and more similar to those of neurotypical girls. She says that being female is more important in predicting types of social experiences than being autistic, Again, that's not really my experience because I don't really, I'm not really someone that, I don't really consider myself to be particularly conforming to any one particular narrow pigeonholed view of what gender is, and um, I would say that I haven't really had much in way of social experiences to really know. But obviously, like, we exist in a gendered world, so obviously my experiences if I was a boy probably would have been different. But I didn't really have, any real social. I didn't really have any proper friendships growing up, other than that one towards the end of my primary school years. As I said, was very exclusive, very clingy, and regularly broke down. My overall experiences has been of not really having any really good quality friendships or relationships. I can't really relate to that. Research says that autistic girls have better quality relationships than autistic boys. That has not been my experience. I do not fall into that female kind of autism, as it's labelled in that regard. And I don't actually think there is such a thing as female autism anyway. I think that's creating new stereotypes, but let me know what you think. She says that autistic boys often face overt conflict, shouting, for example, while girls often face more of an array of relational conflict, for example, like being left out of things, or friends who drop them when someone cooler comes along. And that's, again, the case for non-autistic friendships as well in general. Yeah, I mean, again, there might be something in that, very loosely speaking. Certainly, when my friendships broke down, it was due to relational conflicts. For example, me being too clingy. I won't go into it now. I might talk about it more in my next video, because I think I need to come back to this, because I think the video is going to run out. But yeah, when a girl said I was too clingy at secondary school, we'd only been friends for like a very short period of time. She said I was too clingy, and she started becoming friends with another girl, and clearly she got on better with the other girl, and I couldn't hack the fact that she had this other friend, so I wanted her exclusively to myself. So I could kind of relate to that, but again, I'm not sure how exclusive that is to girls or not. It might be marginally more common, but let me know what you think. Interestingly, on page 130, it's mentioned that autistic kids with high levels of social skill may be more likely to be bullied, and also those who are more internalising behaviours. For example, those who are quiet and anxious, more bullied than those who display externalising behaviours. And autistic girls tend to internalise more than autistic boys, apparently, but again, I'm not sure how correct that is. I found that interesting. I did experience low level